cases where that already exists, or
Livepeer is super reliable.
Livepeer is super reliable.
and do you have like sort of metrics where you're saying, okay, it's very, because everybody's ADD nowadays, right? So you have like an easy metric to say, like, look, if you run it here, I don't know, the uptime is X better, or if you run it with us, it is actually much cheaper or not. Because I remember this was quite a while ago, right? Livepeer issued this really interesting finding that some Bitcoin miners actually had sort of, I'm probably butchering this in the summary, it's been like a couple of years, but they sort of have like essentially spare capacity on their chips to run another computation at the same time. And then they basically drop from something that AWS charges $3 an hour for to like, I don't know, 20 cents or something like that. Like, is that something that was, like, are you at this point where you can offer like clearly that much of like a price difference, for example, or?
Yeah, we're like 10x cheaper than.
Okay, 10x cheaper, all right, so we're already there. It's amazing, yeah. I mean, something on the abstract level, how we're bullish on Web3 is that when you have, permissionless supply, meaning that anybody in the world can just sort of compete and try to offer specific types of computational storage, whatever best way they can come up with. You have this insane amount of innovation. In the best case, the best example of that was that the energy efficiency of Bitcoin miners increased 130-fold over 6 years or something, and that was already since the beginning of ASICs. So it was ASICs to the best ASICs over 6 years with 130-fold increase in energy efficiency. That's really unheard of in the world of hardware. This has never ever happened. And so I think it is because you can, anybody can just sort of, you don't need to negotiate, sign contracts, wine and dine, whatever. Like, I remember this, like in the early days, we felt really clever about mining Arweave for a couple of cents. And we had a really good setup, and then there was this Russian kid that kept selling them to me for 1 cent. So, it was just like a very, very smart, intelligent person in the middle of Russia that had, I don't know what, and so I think that when you add these principles, then I think there's going to be so much innovation on the supply side of this computation storage, whatever it is, that the market, will come up with some. We already have a 10x increase, and then I think also with Arweave, it's something that is remarkable because that just never existed before, right? That you just you pay once, and then you have like probabilistic guarantees that this is there around for a couple hundred years. That's also part of my point.
Maybe I can add one. So generally, right now we are theoretically like infinite times better since it's completely free to store on Falcon, but we want to get to a point where it's not even comparable. For example, you can imagine now having like a storage deal for which a person is actually being paid to store. And when we get to that, you can also imagine having apps that are actually like allowing users, actually apps that are generating revenue by actually storing the data on the network. And then you can imagine developers trickling down some of that revenue to the users only because they are generating data, which is what we want, right? Because that data is not actually from the network, that data is being generated by the user and is owned by the user. So generally, I believe that we should be trying to do things that are impossible with the current stuff, like with the infrastructure. Also, as you mentioned, like storing something forever. Yeah, that's impossible. And I think those are the cases that are actually going to unlock product market fit for luxury rather than making something 10 times cheaper. And we know that because it's not like everyone is storing stuff on Falcon because it's cheap. People are doing that because we have other things that you can get out of that. Also, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, I do think it's a lot of the criticisms like Moxie from Signal recently about Web3. I think a lot of them they're sort of evaluating Web3 on the dimensions that Web2 is really, really good at. And that's actually, this is in line with what you're saying, right? It's sort of they're completely missing some of the dimensions that just Web2 doesn't even offer. And I think that's also the interesting point about this permissionless innovation is that people can come up actually with completely new use cases that just didn't exist before. Do you think there's going to be like a merging of like Web2, Web3 infrastructure, or do you think it'll be more breakthrough innovation that's completely decentralized that's going to take over.
Slightly pessimistic when it comes to some of this because I think that there's also a tendency for capital to centralize emerging domains. I think that there is kind of a trend towards creating or reducing decentralization with the goal of achieving something, whether that's quicker or faster. And sometimes I don't think that one has to choose that or that one should. And so I think that we do see that in this space, and I think that that's because it's so early and because it's so easy to kind of influence with capital. I mean, Web3 is incredibly capitalized by, we made a joke about Web2 being controlled by it could be colluded with a couple people in Silicon Valley. There's actually a lot of protocols that could be colluded by a couple people in Silicon Valley. Not on that level, of course, but I think that it's a really, really, really important thing to be cognizant of for us, because I think that if you truly want to build a censorship-resistant, permissionless, peer-to-peer future, we really have to be kind of focusing on the ideological values that we're embedding in our software. And so right now, I think we're kind of trending towards, kind of in that more Web2, Web3 kind of way. And I think that, but there's also a lot of foundational ideology that's kind of driving the space forward. So I'm optimistic, but slightly pessimistic sometimes.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by traditional. Because, for example, for us, it's very hard to imagine how we could work with hardware, even though that they are trying very hard to actually do something in decentralized search and compute. But on the other hand, if you work with folks like academics, which are main purpose mainly around authoritative values that we believe in and whether those align. The guys that are building infrastructure, they think of themselves as real estate companies. If you ask them, hey guys, we need some hardware, you're not a tech company. Go there, do whatever you want. We're a real estate company. We do fiber, we do a bunch of machines, and you can connect your machines as well. We don't care what you do with them. But that's the kind of approach that we take. Those guys are best at infrastructure, and no one else can be better than that. Well, Google is trying to actually have any abstraction control, not only that they are controlling, to at the end get that blocking that they can get over the existing state, which is not compatible with what we have.
I guess I'd say that I think it's a big leap for Web2 to evolve into Web3. And so the way I think about it is that the primary Web2 companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, maybe Microsoft, they can't evolve into Web3. And they, in fact, are the danger and the centralization point that we all need to be worried about. And Web3 is hoping and striving to actually replace. And it's going to take a long time. It's going to happen slowly, but I can't see any of them evolving into a Web3 company. That's just not the history of how companies evolve. And so I think that actually the other ones besides those 4 or 5, it almost doesn't matter. And so it's more about what happens and what do we build that reduces our reliance on those companies, and whether it's infrastructure, whether it's data search or social, just reducing our reliance on those. And I think that that's kind of open to do because they're not going to be able to, it's antithetical to the whole culture and business model.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's about looking at the disruption of the Web2 business model that is happening in Web3. Running internet infrastructure is expensive and complicated, and it's why Google and Amazon and the other Web2 monoliths rely on monetizing user data, because it's the only way they can pay for the infrastructure that's needed. YouTube had to sell to Google because they couldn't make enough money to cover their costs. Twitch is still losing money. So we are, through decentralizing internet infrastructure, reducing the cost. Again, Livepeer is 10x cheaper than centralized servers. So I think and then the other kind of killer point here is could Google or Facebook, create a decentralized network to lower their costs? They could, but the people running those nodes wouldn't own it. So I think to Abby's point, like, it's also the values that we're embedding into ownership of this infrastructure makes this a really sustainable solution.
Yeah, just,
I feel like the ability for Fang or Mango or whatever it's called now to co-opt Web3 values to feed their capitalist ends as they realize they're kind of on this spiraling positive chaos machine of extraction. Like it's incredibly endangering to some of the core values that we see in this space. It's the same thing that happened to the FOSS movement, right? And how Google co-opted Android, and how Microsoft acquired GitHub, IBM acquired Red Hat. Like all of these kind of accumulation and extraction are kind of just going to be like incredibly challenging for us, I think, for us to build against.
Yeah, but here the good thing is they can't buy tokens, so at least not yet, right? So they can't just acquire networks. Well, because that was a playbook, right? You just buy them and integrate them and kill off the competition in a friendly way. But here, I don't see any of them really buying like on the token network in order to like sort of try to
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, but this is sort of the question I get. Can Web3 run on AWS, right? And right now, a lot of it is. And that's the thing I think with decentralization, like it doesn't matter until it really matters, and like it basically breaking the neck. Right? I think we're getting sort of towards the end. Maybe like everyone like a shout out, kind of like what's your call to action? Like what do you need help with? What do you want people to do and take away from this, or maybe join the Discord or whatever.
I think just building on what we were just talking about, I think that the call to action is not to follow. I think the real danger is that the big competitors want to are just going to be banned, and they're just going to say like, oh, we're Web3, and this is what Web3 is, and they're just going to drown it out, and we're going to just be like, yo, that's not true, but it's going to be really, really difficult. So I think that the call to action is like, fight the fight and just start the values.
I think that's something that's incredibly high potential for Web3 is that you have these community-owned and governed pools of capital that can be distributed in more decentralized and modular ways, right? For example, like we just launched a grants program, which is like a very low-hanging fruit, easy way to get funding to build on Radicle or with Radicle or support the Web3 ecosystem as a whole. And our goal is to continue funding funds and grant programs and squads of people to continue growing, and that's kind of like the power that we have in the space. Because like what you were saying, centralized Fang, they can't compete, right? They actually can. Like there's a lot of research that says that decentralized collaboration actually builds better software, and I think that that's where we'll get, but there's a lot of work we need to do to retain, to attract, and to improve on our protocols and our ecosystems, and we can do that with kind of this potential that we have if we can deploy it in the right way. So that's kind of a call to action for people who are interested in Radicle. Radicle is building a lot of really cool developer experiences and a lot of different Web3 tech. It's not just like hardcore decentralized GitHub. There's like a lot of other things happening in the ecosystem. So yeah, join the Discord.
Yeah, I would say with Facebook can make a lot. But with Facebook, that's not how it is.
You think there's anybody working at Facebook in this audience?
I think-
what's happening.
I think get a stake in a network, buy some Livepeer token, but it's not a speculative token. You can put it to work in actually powering like core internet infrastructure.
I'd say get involved and collaborate. And one of the best things about Web3 is the collaboration that happens between all these projects. And so, be involved, learn, and then with all of this, and then every project you're on, just figure out ways to make everybody here stronger by working together and collaborating, sharing information. I think that to me is how this whole ecosystem works. But also, you've got one other thing you want to say about the call to action, which is the drinks. Remind people where it is, which is not now, by the way. Now I'm shifting into my moderator hat, but we're having a break, and then we're going to have Doug
talk, and I think there's one more talk, and then we're gonna go to drinks, but tell people what it is.
Yeah, join us for an after party. We're going to continue to geek out on the decentralized web at the Poca Lola Social Club until 9 p.m., which is at 1850 Wazi Street. Poca Lola Social Club, Google Map it.
Easy to spell. So listen, and give a round of applause to everybody else on the panel here, please, and then have a drink while we take this down and get ready for the next session. Thanks.